Greetings, brothers and sisters. Trending number 1 on YouTube Trends, Venom, let there be carnage. Let there be carnage. Stop holding the carnage back. There's going to be carnage. Let it be. Let that carnage be. And it is a sequel to the original Venom movie that was out a couple years ago. You know, there's Venom. There is a guy who has this symbiote inside of him. It's sort of like a suit. And so he is merged with a demon, a symbiote. And I've read this before. You know, I've talked about it. I did research into it. But it's basically a demon from outer space that merges with a human and eats people. You know, just this grotesque, monstrous creature that comes out of the person. And so if you've seen the Venom movies or read the comic books or whatever, it's a part of the Spider-Man series. So this is a little side note. Here they're telling you this is the trailer. Like you should already know, because trailer's in the title. But they seem to be labeling things more and more, like multiple times. Because people don't know what they're watching or seeing. But they're letting you know this is a trailer. Rule number 1, no eating people. He's got rules up on there, and, you know, they don't look very official. But Eddie Brock is the person's name, I believe. Eddie. And he has his, you know, he's in this symbiotic relationship with Venom. It starts off with Venom turning on the radio. So you can see Venom is leaking out of him on all sides and making breakfast.
I say either. You say either.
And this dude's, you know, kind of depressed because he's merged with this demon.
Ta-da!
So it starts off like they're the odd couple and they have this comedy stuff, right? And, you know, he's made him breakfast.
Catch up!
Excuse me?
That's funny. The demon sprayed him with ketchup. It's a comedy. It's not like, you know, this guy's been possessed by some demon from outer space. The symbiotes is a whole thing in the Marvel Universe, the MCU, and, you know, this demonic essence.
Hey, Mrs. Chen.
Good evening, Venom.
Now, Venom has a relationship with Mrs. Chen, who was in the first movie. And Venom's become like Alf from the, like, Alf show or something, you know. Like he's some lovable screw-up. I mean, you just see from the trailer. Comedy fodder. But in reality, he's possessed this guy. He's an evil demon. He was eating people, you know, just this, you know, gross mass destruction type of entity. And you'll have people who are big fans of Venom say, no, it's not a demon. Like I got comments to my earlier videos on this, right? It's not a demon. You look up the essence of the backstory to these symbiotes, but just look at the thing. Like, take a look at Venom in this, you know, this gooey, fanged, spider-looking creature, right, that does destruction and damage and possesses a human host, but it's not a demon, you know. I mean, people will rearrange reality in any way they see fit, but when you look at the thing, you know, they can put comedy music and try to make it light and put jokes in there, but it's a, you know, dude possessed by a demon that's doing bad things. So Sony sucks. You can't really do their trailer because they just suck. But, you know, let's go to the end of this little exchange with Mrs. Chen. And then the trailer ends here. Venom, let there be carnage. And now there, you know, with trailers, there's always a joke at the end of the trailer.
The chocolate delivery hasn't arrived yet.
No!
We had a deal.
They had a deal about chocolate. He was supposed to get chocolate. Venom's upset.
What's gonna happen? You gonna stop protecting me?
I am happy to eat, Mrs. Chen.
No.
He's happy to eat Mrs. Chen. Venom will eat her, you know. I mean, they had a deal and everything. See, it's a comedy. It's a comedy of a boy and his demon and Mrs. Chen. And, you know. So we've come to this, you know, part in our collapse, in the apocalypse, where, you know, devil and demons and villains of all sorts are now the heroes. There's shows about serial killers being heroes. There's, you know, this series. There is all these Disney villains that used to be villains that are now the protagonist. You see it more and more where villains are heroes. And they're pushing this idea across the board. And that's, one of the signs that your civilization is in free fall. There's no morality. There's no right or wrong. There's no, heroes and villains. Everything is just, everything's reversed. What you were once told, now the opposite is being told to you. Not that what you were told at first was true, but this is even worse. So my wife sent me this. Candace Owen was on with Tucker Carlson. It was about how Michelle Obama was talking about the innocent act of our daughters getting a license put fear in our hearts, with all the Secret Service around them. And, they're opulence. They're very wealthy people. But she's scared of her daughters going out and driving by themselves because of the police. And Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson are making fun of this.
The truth is that they view us as peasants. They're trying to make it seem like, hey, when the peasants turn against us because they're actually robbing all of them, we don't want them to look at us. We want to make them think that we're one of us. They're not one of us. And
so one of the narratives that's emerging, somebody wrote a comment saying that what's wrong with being woke? I made a video yesterday about fake wokeness, this term woke. And of course, on the other side, you have the cubies who are also fake woke. And I explained it perfectly well in the video, and the person still asked the question, like, what's wrong with being woke? And I'm like, you just watched the video. Why did you not understand this? Like, it's not really being awake, because it is, only seeing half the problem. And the woke people look at the Republicans and, who knows what, right? In terms of the demographics, the Trumpers, white people, whatever it might be, who are, not really in control of anything. The people that Trump isn't in control of anything. Trump was just as controlled as everybody else. He has his handlers. Trump has to borrow money, and I'll get into that in just a moment, just like all these other wealthy people. He's on the hook to these banks and the real wealth and the real control. And then the cubies believe in this fake deep state thing, like it's just, an evil entity in the government. The government is good and the system works. And so until you understand that, if there is a power structure, if there's a shadow government, if there's a hidden hand running or an evil eye, or a hidden hand and evil eye, or both, right, running the world, then they're controlling both sides of the narrative that you've been given. You've been given a choice. You can either be on the right or the left. You can either be a Democrat or a Republican. And you can be a liberal or a conservative. It's a binary system. And those are your two choices. Those are the choices that they give you. And then they provide all the information for you to be mad at the other side, to hate the other side, and be distracted. And so you're not being, really conscious, right? Fox News is a part of the problem. And all these people who are blaming, like on the Fox News, they blame the Democrats. They're just a part of this binary choice that you've been given. Like, this is where you can express your emotion. This is where you can place blame. This is where you can express yourself. It's getting harder to express it on the right now. I don't know how long that'll last. People on the left have the power, and they're still acting like they're victims. But either side, being on either side of that paradigm, you're still controlled. You're still buying into what they're giving you, the narrative that they're providing for you. Left versus right, white versus black, or white versus people of color, or white versus people in the LGBTQ, right? All these different, demographics that are there. Conservatives versus all of these various demographics. All these demographics, liberal people versus conservatives. Republicans being oppressed by the left media and all these things. Everybody else being oppressed by Republicans and Trump. It's just, it's these things that they're handing to you. They're putting it on a tee for you. And then you're accepting their version of reality, and you're choosing a side, and you're not woke. You're just a part of the problem, right? You're just feeding into the people that are controlling you, and it's pretty obvious at this point. And you just don't want to see it. You just want to, be in this binary system. I think somebody sent me this. I'm not sure where I found it. I found it on Instagram. But this guy, Billionaire, I can't pronounce his last name. because of being in India and having an association with Indian people, it's not just that the names are hard to pronounce. Like, I know so many people that I can't, I can never say their name right. Like, I can't remember their name because it's not, it's just the language is so much different than English. Because people say, well, 1/3 of the people in India speak English. But it's not American English. It is an Indian version of British English. And so they don't understand me there. Even though many of them speak English, I would have conversations and realize the person probably gets about 20% of what I'm saying. And so it's an issue. I mean, even Indian people that come to America have trouble understanding when I talk to them. I was talking to this one, somebody I know in India, and in the Mahabharata there are two families, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, right? And I don't, I'm not even saying the second one right at all. And so I was talking about the Pandavas, and this guy said, well, who are the Pandavas? And I said, the guys who are the heroes of the Mahabharata. He goes, oh, the Pandavas. So even where you put the emphasis in the, in the word, the accent and things like that, it's different. That's just a long way to say that I'll never be able to say this guy's name right. But anyways, he's a billionaire. He's a Canadian-American venture capitalist, engineer, and he has part ownership of the Golden State Warriors. And so this guy is a moneyed person. And he was one of the original Facebook guys. So he was one of the original Facebook executives. The Equinox Group is in talks to go public via this guy's backed SPAC, sources say. So this is what he had to say.
I'm thinking there's a deep connection between money as an instrument of change and what you're doing now at Social Capital.
Look, here's the thing. There's about 150 people that run the world. Anybody who wants to go into politics.
So this is somebody who has money, is finally acknowledging what we talk about in the truth community all the time.
There's about 150 people that run the world. Anybody who wants to go into politics, they're all fucking puppets, okay? There are 150, and they're all men, that run the world. Period, full stop.
And so again, this is how if somebody in the establishment acknowledges the truth, they'll immediately become a celebrity in the truth community. I've seen it happen so many times. Even though they're just sort of novices, they're coming in as a newbie, they're immediately, people they start holding court. I mean, you see this with even minor league celebrities and things. But this guy is, somebody who's been successful. He's, a billionaire. And he's saying something that we all know, but it is, it is coming from him, it's more substantial.
There are 150, and they're all men, that run the world. Period, full stop. They control most of the important assets. They control the money flows. And these are not the tech entrepreneurs. Now, they are going to get rolled over the next 5 to 10 years by the people that are really underneath pulling the strings. And when you get behind the curtain and see how that world works, what you realize is it is unfairly set up for them and their progeny.
So years ago, I was watching, many years, like maybe 10 years or something like this, just a long time ago, like before the trip to India, I was watching the show Shark Tank. And that guy, Damon Johns, was in a bidding war for one of the contestants with Mr. Wonderful, Monsanto defender Kevin McCarthy, right? And Kevin McCarthy was trying to claim to the contestant or whatever they are, the entrepreneur, that he could get better money. He had access to money in a better way than Damon Johns did. And Damon Johns said, well, we all go to the same 5 people for money. There's 5 people that loan us money for these projects or whatever it is, or anything that we're doing in the business world. We all go to the same people. Like, I have the same relationship with these same 5 people as Kevin does, that we all have access to the same money. So I saw this and I knew it was profound, but I didn't have the ability to record it. I was, so low tech back then. And I really wasn't making videos about money. I was making videos about the homestead. So like 3 or 4 years went by, and I went back and looked for that quote to put in one of my videos. I couldn't find it anywhere, because it had been so long, and I didn't remember the context of the rest of the story, like what the person was pitching or any of these things. But now it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that this guy, the Warriors owner, the Facebook, he was one of the Facebook, founders or whatever it was. All these people, rich people coming out and saying this, because we're so far down the rabbit hole. Like it's just, we're much farther along in the collapse right now. We've moved really quickly, especially since COVID. And I think the COVID thing, more than anything else, has sent sort of a wake-up call to even the most sleeping sheeple. But what this guy said, that there's 150 people that control the world, and Damon John saying we go to the same 5 people for money, but they never name names. You can say it's the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers or whatever it is, right? The royal family. But in terms of the inner workings of the hierarchy, it's kept secret. Like they'll talk about a generic group of people, the so-called elite, that control the money, and the money is what controls the system. And so you think about people on Shark Tank, or you think about Bill Gates, and Soros is a big one for people on the right, and Trump a big one for people on the left. These people who are supposedly really wealthy, and they're really wealthy and powerful, but they all go to the same people for money. They have to bow down before the money changers to get low interest loans. That's how they make money. All these wealthy people, if they want to invest in something, or they have an idea, or they have a project, they have to get low interest loan. They don't spend their own money. They get low interest loans. And if you take out a $500 million loan or a $100 million loan at a low interest rate, you're going to make money. Your return on the whatever you invest the money in, you have to be like a complete financial screw up and just a complete loser, and they burn those people, right? I mean, those people aren't going to get money a second time. And so when you get all this money and you invest it in something, the return on that investment is going to be more than the low interest. The reason that the people who control the money system give certain people that they have chosen money, like give them low interest loans, is because they receive some return on the investment. They're going to get some money back in terms of the low interest, but they also now have control over that project. They have control over the internet. They have control over these companies that they loaned them money. And these people, Bill Gates and the rest of them, are going to come back to these financial sorcerers for more money in the future. So they control those people. And so all the people that you see on TV, all the people that you think of as rich, all the people that the mainstream media acknowledges being rich and powerful business people, bow down to the same sorcerers, the same financial sorcerers. And so they're not really rich people, right? They have money. They're not rich and powerful like you think, because they can be cut off at any time. The system can turn on them. The media can turn on them. I mean, look at what happened with Trump, right? Anytime they want, the sorcerers can turn you into a pauper. And you remember the movie Trading Places, made by Aaron Russo, who made a truther documentary about the IRS. And so if you understand this, these people who are thinking that they're, cubies, or people who are thinking that they're woke, that they have a deeper understanding of the truth than the majority of people, because they're not even acknowledging this hidden layer above the people that you're just giving these people. You're giving Bill Gates. You're giving, Trump. You're giving Soros, right? These are your targets. These are the targets where you're going to vent your venom and your hate, and you're going to look at these people as the ones making the decisions and controlling your lives and running the agenda. And so you're not woke at all, right? You're not. There's not really anything different than like a sheeple, because you're still completely wrong. You have some partial information that sheeple won't acknowledge, that the people who are asleep won't acknowledge, but you're still way off base, and you're, kind of a dick about it, right? When you deal with QBs and so-called woke people, the left version and the right version, it's just extremists. It's left extremist and right extremist. And those people are always like arrogant. They're always, they're really annoying. And they talk to you like they know more than you, and they're like children. Like their conceptual ability, their ability to understand what's going on in the world, and they're just total newbies. That's why I call them QBs, and the flubies. And the woke bees, right? All these, newbies that are just starting off, and they're getting a little bit of the, the bigger picture. They're getting half of the bigger picture on a very remedial level. And they think that they've discovered the perpetual motion machine. Like they think they're like cracked the code. We've been doing this for years, and you have to go through various phases, right? Because they're in the phase where they think things can be changed, and they can wake other people up, and all these, ridiculous notions and ideas when you're first starting off, that the system can be saved and changed. And the other piece to it is that the woke people, the QBs, the extreme right and the extreme left, only believe things and only find information that supports their already pre-existing political leanings and social prejudices. And so they, it's not like they've changed it all. It's not like they've expanded their consciousness. They still have the template. They still believe in their religion or their science or whatever it is. They still believe in their, Democratic or Republican Party, and they still believe in all the same things they used to believe in. They've just gone deeper into it, and they think they have a deeper level of understanding the true evil behind the oppositional system and party, the binary narrative that they've been given. And so they really haven't changed at all. They're just, deeper into it. They're deeper into their belief system, their own, indoctrinated belief system. And then there's, people who are, more awake, that understand that there is a shadow government and a controlling system, and that everything we've been told is to protect that secret, like to protect the true nature of our system and the true nature of human beings, and to keep us focused on other people, like what, the sharks on the Shark Tank, and what Jeff Bezos, and what, Mark Zuckerberg, and, all these people, Trump, and, Biden, and, all these people who are out in the public that appear to have power and appear to be the decision makers. What they do is they act as a shield for the people behind the curtain, the people pulling the strings. Hollywood and celebrities and all these people that you think are responsible or who have influence over what's going on, they are, that's where you're going to vent your inevitable anger. And you're going to be angry. People are going to be angry. They're going to be upset. Because when you're lied to about the origin of your species and your true purpose on planet Earth, and you're disconnected from God and what it is to be a natural human being, you're going to get effed up. You're going to become psychologically unstable. You're going to have psychological issues. You're going to self-medicate. When you're not in, good, healthy, romantic relationships, and you don't have true friends, and you don't have a real purpose, and you work a job that you can never get ahead, right? A job that sucks, that, never pays you enough money, and it just sucks your life out of you. It's like some, debilitating slave job. You're going to get upset, right? And you're going to see things in the world, and then you're going to get a little bit of truth, and it's going to like ignite a fire inside of you of anger and just frustration, and just, like some part of you knows that you're being manipulated in the wrong direction. And when you're disconnected from your soul, which is what our religions do, they disconnect you from your soul. They act as a middleman between you and your soul, and they give you a bunch of teachings that favor them and their organization to keep you connected to the organization. So you'll give them money and you'll give them support, and, so they can have power, because power is having a lot of people behind you and a lot of money and influence over those people. So then when you realize there's these puppets with power, politicians and, people that are in the public eye that you think are rich and powerful, but who are controlled by these financial sorcerers who, like you kind of have a sense of who they are. You might know, like I said, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the royal family, and you think, all right, you have a better understanding because now there's just this elite group of people that are pulling the strings. But there's something beyond that, and there's like two things beyond that. There is these higher developed souls that are watching over this planet. They are, spiritual beings that sometimes incarnate in as human beings to do specific work, but they are overseeing the divine evolution of this planet and doing God's work. And beyond them is God, which is the true controller of everything. That God is involved in everything. God's a part of everything. And there is a plan. If you believe that there is God, you believe that there is some consciousness, it's just not chaotic, it's not random, like people who believe in science believe, but you believe that there's some intention and there's some, order to the universe, then you realize this idea that human beings have freedom of choice, that, intelligent beings and even, animals on a certain level, have freedom of choice, then you have to believe that there's contingencies, all the disastrous and wrong choices, the horrible choices, the anti-God choices, the anti-self choices, the anti-soul choices, the anti-nature choices, the self-centered, self-destructive choices that people are inevitably going to make. There has to be, something to account for that. And this is easy to understand. If there's a plan and you've given human beings the freedom of choice, there's one X factor, there's one variable in the divine script, right, where somebody might go out and just wing it. They might, just do something selfish, right? You give human beings power. This happens with saintly people who have spiritual power given by God. And then they just say, I'm going to use this for myself. And they fall, they, turn away from God, and they become demonic. You see this with the idea of the devil, Satan, the fallen angel. There's higher developed souls that end up saying, I'm just going to do for myself. I'm going to use this power that I was given for myself. And so there would be a contingency for that. That God was like, wow, I didn't know that was going to happen. Well, I gave them freedom of choice and they chose to do the wrong thing. Who could have figured that would have happened? That I gave them an infinite amount of choices and all these temptations and, pleasure-based things. And, they chose the wrong thing time and time again. Who would have thought that would have happened? I don't know what to do now. Everything's wrecked. Everything's wrecked. You guys, why didn't you guys choose the right thing? I gave you one right choice in an infinite sea of wrong choices, and you guys chose the wrong choices? I don't know what to do. I'm dumbfounded. And so there's a contingency for it. And so everything that you see here is a part of a plan and a part of a controlled system. And even with people making the wrong choices, even with people going backwards or going sideways or, blocking the progress of everybody else or whatever's happening on planet Earth to go against the divine order of things. And now, you have a full-blown system that's taken everybody in the wrong direction. It's still a part of a plan. There's still a reason for this. And I talked about this in a video yesterday, the Kali Yuga. Kali's this goddess of death and destruction and all these negative things, right? Associated with, negative consequences and, bad things. But Kali isn't a demon. Kali isn't going against the divine order. Kali serves a purpose and is doing God's work. There's a difference between the devil, which is an angel or being that has said, F you, God, I'm doing my own thing. Going against the will of God, and destructive forces, souls that are behind destructive forces, Yama or the Grim Reaper, that's the essence behind death. Everyone associates that with evil, but it's a cosmic functionary. It's doing work for God. It is a soul that is doing undesirable work, like vultures. People look at vultures. Oh, vultures are bad. But vultures eat, diseased flesh I mean, they eat things that would cause diseases and cause, I mean, if you just had all these rotting bodies out on the road or wherever they are, they would be, festering disease factories. And so vultures have the ability to eat this and not, pass on diseases. I mean, vultures have never been responsible for some plague or something. They're the cleanup crews. Opossums, possums are things that do that as well. There's these creatures that eat things, that otherwise would cause more death. And people think of vultures as evil because they're associated with this, right? They're associated with death and things that are undesirable. But they are doing the work that they're supposed to be doing. There's beings and creatures that are usurping and going against the will of God. And there's other creatures that are involved with destructive work, souls and beings that are in charge of destructive aspects to whatever has to happen, in terms of the divine order. And Kali is one of these cosmic functionaries. And the Kali Yuga, this period of time, is to bring everything up to the surface, deviant tendencies and behaviors that were created in other yugas, other time periods, because people do bad things, make wrong choices, and there's consequences. And the Kali Yuga is like a 5,000-year period where those consequences are acted out and are cleaned out in the human experience and on a global situation. All the mistakes that are being made, all the wrong choices that have been made over, thousands of years are now brought out to the surface and cleaned out. It's a purification type of ritual, a 5,000-year purification ritual. And then there is, also a desensitization of these behaviors. Your soul realizes, oh, wow, these behaviors have hurt me and other people. And your soul and, collectively people's souls say, I don't want to do this again. I've made mistakes, I've made the wrong choices. I see what's happened. I see the consequences for those wrong choices. I want to redeem myself. And the souls that are, going to come back in a depopulated human population. So when you have, less than 1 billion people going from 8 billion to less than 1 billion, there's going to be, 1 out of 7 souls are going to be allowed back on planet Earth. And those are the souls that want redemption. Those are the souls that realize that they, went in the wrong direction. And so those souls will come back in human form and work to redeem themselves. And then there's a spiritual renaissance that's going to happen on planet Earth, and it's part of a plan. And so the people at the top of the system are really just in charge of this purification ritual, even though they don't know it themselves. They don't know that this, hedonistic financial system and all the things that, they've taken humanity in a certain direction, they've been allowed to do so by the divine forces, by God and the beings here, that, the beings that are overseeing the planet, that are bringing about a, redemption phase, that are bringing all the, inner filth, all the inner grossness to the surface and people, cleaning it out, and then starting over with a better system. And so it's part of a plan, and it is, and the contingency is there for all the inevitable wrong choices that people are going to make. That people are going to take things in a direction that doesn't stick with the plan, and they're going to get off track. And then there's the Kali Yuga and the collapse of the system that bring about a redemption period, that bring about a conscious awareness of people and their egos and souls that they went in the wrong direction, and this is the result. And it's hurt them. And then there's an awareness. They start understanding and reconnecting with their soul and God. I mean, this is what the heartfulness system has been given. It's a part of this plan. It's a part of the end of the Kali Yuga and bringing people to a higher level of consciousness. That people realize that the hedonistic and the materialistic pursuits of their life have hurt them and taken them in the wrong direction, and that has consequences for themselves and everybody else. And so there's going to be this period where people are going to really feel bad, like just, everyone's going to feel bad about what we've done, right? This, moment, like a hangover type moment where you realize how bad you screw up, and now you have to go clean up your mess and redeem yourself in some way. And people have gone through this personally where you really screwed up, and then you have to go to the people you hurt and all these things. I mean, it's a step in the 12-step program, and you got to make amends, right? And so we're at the beginning of the realization part where people realize that they have to make amends. It's not about making, it's not about making Trump or Biden or Soros or, any of these people, the Queen. It's not about you making them make amends. It's not about you holding other people accountable. It's not about us, collectively punishing the controllers. It's about our contribution to the system, because we all contributed. Maybe we contributed in a state of arrogance, but deep down we knew. Deep down we knew that the system is effed up, and we've contributed to it. We've, fed into the system, and we've made our own mistakes. And so each person has to hold themselves accountable for their poor choices, because we've all made them. It's human nature, not beat ourselves up and, do that thing, whip ourselves like that dude in the Da Vinci Code movie. I mean, not like self-flagellating or whatever, guilt and all these penances. I mean, it's not like that. Like you just, vow to do better. You don't compound your so-called sins with guilt and shame and, more negative energy, like self-loathing and self-hatred. I mean, all those things, are just another superficial, crappy, self-indulgent way of making things worse and bringing that energy, that's icky energy. Guilt and shame is icky energy. Like if you feel it for a day, right? Like a natural guilt that you feel or natural shame that you feel for doing something wrong, for a day or something, and then you're like, all right, I'm going to turn this around. And then you start taking your energy and putting it in a positive direction. And with the heartfulness system and the cleaning process, that can easily be done. Redemption is about doing better. It's not dwelling on your mistakes. It's not dwelling on your, victim consciousness or whatever it is, right? It's about taking what positive energy, what love you have, the transmission that's given in the heartfulness system, and taking that positive energy and contributing something to the world and doing what God wanted you to do and becoming a better person and focusing on something positive. And that's the one bad thing about the truth community. People are obsessed with the negative. It's like one of the most negative, things that exist, right? And now all these woke people and QBs, I mean, they're all obsessed with the, looking at what's wrong and blaming and all the, just all the negative, right? You look at the comments and it's like, oh, look, those people suck. Everyone sucks, suck. Yeah, but you're responsible for your own suck, right? Everyone has their own suck, their own, mistakes, their own deviation from their divine purpose, their own deviation from their soul's path to redeem themselves of. And that's like the true, once you realize that your contribution is to become a better person and, find your spiritual goal and not some, artificial way of doing charity. I mean, you can do charity, you can help people, which everyone should, but not doing it in some artificial way, but finding out what you're supposed to do, what gift you have, what talents you have that God wants you to contribute, and start doing that, right? Start, doing the things that you were sent down here to do. Connect with your soul. And this is what the heartfulness system does for people. The longer they do it and the more they invest in it, and the better connection they build, the connection with God, and the more sincere they are about it. Because it's not just sitting there like you sit in church and, pretending to meditate and thinking about other things, right? Purposefully, daydreaming or whatever it is, right? It's about actually, connecting to God and listening to God and, allowing God to mold you into something so that you can contribute. And I can assure you there are higher developed souls with just a mere thought. They could make people disappear, just like Thanos them. Like all the human beings would just be gone. They could just wipe out the so-called controllers, people I call the controllers. They could wipe out any number of people. They can wipe out the whole population. Or they could make people, run into the sea, sort of like those crappy movies, The Happening and The Bird Box, where people just start killing themselves and just do self-destructive thing. With a mere thought, they could make those things happen. They could just wipe out the human race. I mean, those are still things that are on the table, if there isn't a, corrective measure here, because there's a choice point that everyone has to make. That's the one thing that you're given, you know, in terms of your overall ability to make choices, at some point, then, you know, then on a constant level, at some point you have to embrace God and say, I'm going to voluntarily and willingly serve God. That I'm not being forced to, I'm not, you know, by my religion or my belief system, but I'm literally choosing to serve God. And then you have to remake that choice. You have to, you know, stick with that commitment over, you know, eternity. Like you have to, you make that choice and you got to stick with it, right? Because people make vows, people, you know, make proclamations, and it doesn't stick. They can't hold on to it, right? In moments of despair, there is, you know, people beg God or they vow something to God. There's a great ending to a movie. My dad told me about it. Like, it's one of the things I, you know, remember. It just made a profound impact on me. But he watched this movie, The End, with Burt Reynolds, and it looks like a pretty crappy movie. Burt Reynolds made a lot of bad movies. But Burt Reynolds is dying of cancer or something, and he's a wealthy man. He's like in L.A. or something like this. And he decides to kill himself, and he swims out into the middle of the ocean, and then he realizes he wants to live, but he's too tired to make it back on shore. And so he's swimming ashore, and then I went back and found the clip on YouTube, but I'd never really seen it till very recently. I'll play a little bit of the clip after I'm done talking about it here. But he says, you know, God, I'm going to give you 90% or something like this if you help me make it to shore. And then he's swimming, and he's like, all right, God, you know, he's halfway there. He's like, okay, God, I'm going to give you that 50% I promised you, right? You know, maybe he said he was going to give everything away, then 50%. And then he gets back to the shore and said, God, you delivered. I'm going to give you that 10% I promised, right? And so, you know, back when he was in the middle of the ocean, he was going to give everything away. And then when he gets closer to shore, he whittles it down to 10%, right? And 2 days later, he's forgotten all about the commitment.
I want to live! I want to live! Help me make it! I'll give you 50% of everything I make! I think I'm gonna make it! And I'm gonna start donating that 10% right away!
So there's this idea of making a, you know, vow, I mean, having in the sense of a commitment to serve God, but also there's the ability to stick with it. There's the ability to see that commitment through. And so all these things are, you know, necessary because people go back and forth. I mean, it's one of the problems with the hedonistic, choice-based society. You're constantly making choices with your purchasing power and decisions about things you want to do. And, you know, people are in and out of relationships. They're in and out of jobs. They're, you know, constantly moving. You know, people don't sustain things, don't make choices and stick with those choices, right? And that's, you know, one of the problems with the modern day humans. If you make the wrong choice or the choice doesn't pan out the way that you thought it was, people go back on them. And that has to change, where you make a commitment and you see it through, because you can't be constantly going back and forth and, you know, God, I want to serve you, God. And then, you know, 2 days later, you're doing something else, and then you're back to God a year later. I mean, all these things. Have a sustained commitment to your spiritual path and your soul and successfully complete your journey. So all those things are going to happen on the human level. Human beings have to be able to make the right choice, and that's the one choice that we really have, whether we're going to serve ourselves, our egos, or we're going to serve God. Whether we're going to live for our soul's purpose and a spiritual purpose, or whether we're going to live, you know, just for ourselves in a selfish way, right? We're not going to contribute to the world in the way that God wants us to contribute. We're not going to fulfill our spiritual purpose. We're going to come down here and just go in the wrong direction. And that's the case for so many people, and for, you know, everybody to a certain extent, and then most people on a larger extent, and then some people who are just like 100% not wanting to fulfill their own spiritual purposes, but also are against God in every possible way. They are, you know, violently committed to disrupting the natural order of things. And all that, is going to be wiped away. The Kali Yuga ends, the people who are in control. I mean, that's one of the other problems with the so-called truth community, and certainly with the QBs who give all the power to the deep state, who think the deep state is more powerful, and then, lower level non-spiritual people like Trump and JFK Jr. have the power to, change things. Like they are, saints or something. They're higher developed souls, which they're not. And the people who are in the so-called deep state, they don't have the power to control things, just like with the people who are so-called woke, and look at the Republicans and, the lower level rich people and, Trump and his supporters and, the old guard, the people that used to have control, the Christian right and all these people, conservatives, of having way more power than they actually do. And so people in the truth community give all this power to the so-called elite or whoever it is, right? What I call the controllers, the people who are at the real top of the system, people in the capstone of the pyramid, but they are, the weakest of all, right? They have money power, and they have their, addictions, and they have their system of control that they're all committed to, but they are being propped up by divinity just like everybody else. That without God's blessing, they don't have anything. Nobody has anything. You can be erased from existence. Your soul can just be wiped out. Like your soul can be, even your soul energy, your soul's eternal, and your soul can be destroyed. I mean, think about that, right? Something that is, etheric in nature. I mean, there's nothing there. It's nothing that you're killing, right? It's not a physical body. It's not a material, thing like a rock or the planet or, a tree or whatever, soil. I mean, it's not even something like that. And everything in the universe, if you destroy it, you destroy anything in Earth, on the planet, you burn it, you crush it, you do whatever, it just breaks up into a different form. You understand this. It becomes smoke, and it becomes, energy, and it becomes whatever, right? It doesn't ever, you can't really destroy anything completely. You can just transform it into something else. You're transforming the window into small fragments and pieces. You can grind up those pieces into a sand, so it's very fine particles, but it's still the window. And so no matter what you do, you can change something's form. You can transform it into something else, especially in the world of matter. And the same thing with energy. And the soul, which is eternal, that lives from the beginning of the creation of the universe till the end, soul energy, can be completely destroyed, like just wiped out, gone forever, disappeared, isn't transformed into something else. I mean, think about that. Like, that can be done. And so, and that's kind of the worst thing, right? Like, if your soul was destroyed, like, you're going to die, but you still have your soul, you still have your essence. And so, like, those things can happen. And so there's, like, too much emphasis on what you see as people who are in power, and too little emphasis on the power of divinity, the divine souls that are in charge of this planet, the energetic beings that are overseeing this planet, your spiritual support team and the support team of the whole planet, and then God himself, right? So all of these things are there that are, much more in control, and there's a plan with contingencies. There's a plan, that's perfect in every possible way. There's love, there's divine energy that, no soul can exist without. There has to be some love energy, and you can extract it from physical matter and from power and things in a much grosser form, but you need love to survive, right? Without love, nothing can exist. It's the media for all creation. God is making the universe out of himself, which is love, the loving energy at the basis of all things. And love is in every particle of every being, every atom, it's everywhere. And so without it, nothing can happen. Nothing can exist. Even the people that control the system, even the devil, even the worst, whatever it is. And there's always a chance for anything, any creature, even the devil, to redeem themselves, reverse their course, humble themselves, and realize that they want to work for God again. They want to, you want to come back, and you want to come back to God and do what you were originally meant to do, fulfill your your purpose and your destiny. You always have that choice. You can always go back. It's God's nature being the essence of love, and the fact that you have God inside of you. God isn't going to, shun you when he exists within you, that you're a part of him. You're a part of the creation. We're all children of God. That's one of the things that's been lost, specifically in Christianity. They think there's only one Son of God, but also it says, we're all children of God. So what is it, right? Because everything is created from God, and we all have God in us. So God's not going to, punish himself, right? I mean, God is, inside of you suffering. God's inside of everybody suffering the things that we're suffering. And we suffer, the part of us that's connected to God, the part of us that's divine, is suffering along with us. And so God always wants us to return. There's never any sense of, no, you can never return. You've done this one thing that you can never redeem yourself for. And so there's been cases across the, historical religious context and the spiritual movement. St. Paul, for example, was somebody, a horrible human being, somebody that was doing the wrong things. And then he redeemed himself. He had that, moment where he saw God on the road to Damascus, famous story. And he became St. Paul. And he's somebody that literally saved the Christian religion. I mean, a big part of what exists in terms of Christianity came from St. Paul's work and that experience. And he became Master Chargi, the third master of the heartfulness system, who reached a whole new level in terms of his own spiritual development and benefited so many of us. There's people all across the world that, can tell you stories of how he affected people in a positive way, myself included. Somebody that helped change my life in the right direction. And so there's, cases of people reversing their course of action. People who were once demonic, people who were once, went in the wrong direction. I mean, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has, their moments where they do bad things. And so you've been given the freedom of choice by God, and that's, partly on God, because, of course, people are going to choose the wrong thing. And God, expected it in the sense that, if you give people choices, they're going to make the wrong choice. I mean, it's just like with your own kids and things like this. Your kids are going to make the wrong choices, and it's, good to teach them. I mean, teach them in a way that they can use that as a tool, use that as a way to navigate their lives and make the right choices in the future. This is all things that, everybody has to learn how to do. And so I'm saying all this, at the beginning of this video, there is always on the spiritual path, there's never any stagnant point. There's never any point where you're like, oh, I made it. I can stop here. There are actually, places in your spiritual journey. There are conditions, there are spiritual points where there's complete bliss, where you feel blissful all the time. You feel great. And there's multiple points like this. And people, saints have reached those levels and thought that they made it, to the goal. They thought that, oh, wow, this feels so good, it must be the end, and they stop moving forward, or they just don't want to move because they are in this condition. And they live this condition of complete happiness and complete bliss all the time, but it's a lower level of spiritual attainment. And so this is, something where in the heartfulness system, there's always going to be restlessness. There's always going to be, a craving and movement to go forward. It's part of the system because it's easy to get stuck at a condition that is very pleasant. And there's no stagnant place on the spiritual path. You're either going up or you're going down. You're either going in or you're going out. That's a better way to look at it. You're either going further and further into your center. The center is where God exists. So you're either moving inward or you're moving outward to the external periphery of your existence, which is where all the bad stuff happens, right? You're either going towards God or you're going away from God. And so you got to keep on moving forward. And it's the same thing in the truth community or any movement. If you're going to do anything in life, the more you do it, there's going to be layers and realizations about your art, about what you're doing, what you're perfecting in sports and, art itself and business. I mean, you're going to get to the core of it. You're going to get deeper and deeper into it. If you want to be successful, you have to learn more, you have to evolve, and you're going to grow. And that is very much the case in the truth community. Because you come into the truth community, you have your wake-up moment, whatever that is. You see people who are just stuck, right? People are making the same content. They're, talking the same stuff they talked, years ago. There's no evolution to what they're putting out there. There's no, they're not going deeper into it. They're not figuring out. And I'm not talking about going into the belly of the beast and learning more and more about, the problem. I mean, that's one of the issues with people in the truth community. They're obsessed with the problem, just like with modern day psychology, which is obsessed with your problems and your psychological deficiencies, right? It doesn't look at the solution. It doesn't look at the health. You think about news or you think about movies and TV shows, they're problem-centered. They're drama-centered. They're obsessed with the problem and not the solution. And then as soon as one problem solved, there's another problem. It's always problem, right? And so that happens with people in the truth community. You realize that what you were told, the official story, is, mostly lies and an illusion. And your purpose at everything that you've been told is your purpose, and your life and everything that's going on with you and your job and your career and your orientation to the world and your lifestyle and all these things are a part of that illusion. And then just going into the illusion even more and more and, trying to turn over every stone and figure out every lie you've been told and figure out who's the liars and, just going deeper and deeper into that. And you're just going down the rabbit hole and, you're becoming even worse as a person. It affects your character. It affects, who you are energetically on a vibrational level because you're obsessed with, what's basically crap, right? It's filth. It's spiritual filth. It's spiritual poop, right? It's, slime. You're in the cesspit and you're diving deeper and deeper into the cesspit and it just keeps on getting worse. And you're like, well, this isn't pleasant. Yeah, because you're obsessed with the darkness, with the wrong choices, and you're obsessed with all the mistakes and all the, ways that people have deviated from the divine purpose. You should be focused on God, right? You dive into the cesspit, you think about God while you're there, and then you get out of the cesspit. I mean, that's how I make my videos, and you go about your life, and you're moving forward positively, thinking about God and thinking about the positive. Because most people who are in the truth community are obsessed with the negative. And so they're just contributing negative energy to the world. You're not focused on what you need to do. Once you realize that your life is a lie, that everything you've been told and your purpose and your goal and all the things you've been working towards are a lie, then you have to find your true purpose. You have to find your goal. What's your goal? Why are you here? What's your real reason for being here? Not what the system told you, not the American dream, which is a nightmare and a lie. And that's one of the things I document here. All these people who are living the American dream, celebrities and all of them, and how miserable they are, right? How, going in the wrong direction they are. And they become these ugly, selfish people. The more fame they get, the more wealth they get. I mean, look at the elite people, the people who control the system. They have billions of dollars in resources, and you look at them, and they look like, the Sith Lord. They look like, as they get old, they turn into this monster, externally, and it's a reflection of their inner condition. You can clearly see that they didn't succeed. Like, that's how you're going to go out, looking like some, abomination. All these people who are models and actors and actresses, and the older they get, the uglier they get, the meaner they get. They're just, their inner filth, their inner condition starts to express itself in what they look like and who they are on the outside. They become more and more diva-ish and more and more of a monster. And so the American dream doesn't work. It's a lie. And so what's your true purpose? Why are you here? You must have a reason for being here. And the Heartfulness System for me has delivered that purpose and goal, which is to go back to the source, to return to my creator. It's something that has benefited me on every level. But everyone has to find that. Like, what's your real purpose? If you've been lied to, but instead people are just obsessed, well, I've been lied to, I want to find out every aspect to the lie and deception. They just go deeper and deeper into the dark illusion, the abyss of depravity that, dominates our world and existence right now. And so that's not helpful. Like, you're not going to have good results with that. You don't need to know everything, right? You don't need to know every aspect of the lie and all these things. You just need to find the truth. And not the material truth, but on a soul level. Because there's just a couple of things to this, simple things. Your soul has a purpose, and you have a material work to do. You have things you have to accomplish here on planet Earth. You know, things, tasks to help your soul move forward on a spiritual level. And you have gifts, abilities that, you know, things that you have to contribute to this planet. Things that you have to contribute to this life, that if you do it correctly, you'll make the world a better place. You'll raise the vibrations, and the world will be a better place for your contribution. And so those are the things you got to figure out, right? Those positive things. You're not going to find the truth by searching through a haystack of lies, right? You know, looking for a needle of truth in a haystack full of lies. You're going to figure out the truth by connecting to God. That is far beyond this illusion and the material world and the controllers and all the rest of it. Like, it seems like so small, you know, like a kid playing with some action figures and creating some illusionary story and drama. Like, that's just all this is, right? A bunch of boys, a bunch of frat boys playing some game. You know, they've been given power by the divine system to help extract the spiritual grossness, the collective spiritual grossness of the human condition, bring it to the surface so it can be purged out, like a snake shedding its skin and being reborn as a higher creature, like a, you know, caterpillar shedding its caterpillarness, its wormness, and coming out of the cocoon like a butterfly, right? A brighter world, a world that's, less negative and less materialistic and less evil and more connected to God, going in the right direction, and everybody moving forward on a higher level of spiritual attainment, raising their vibrational level and raising their consciousness. And so that's there for people. It's something that you only have to choose. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.